Welcome, friends, nerds, and fellow bookworms, to Books, Brews, and Banter. We're two friends engross ourselves in our latest book obsession. In this podcast, we will talk about all things books-ish, from our latest plot twist mind debacle, whether or not the villain will get the girl, and, of course, our favorite fan theories for the unfinished series we just can't seem to put down. My name is Kate, your resident fantasy nerd.
And I'm Jess.
And I'm sure, as you picked up from the title of this episode, this is our very first episode. We wanted to properly introduce ourselves, this podcast, and our tentative plan for the episodes upcoming in the future.
In the recent years, our brains have been traveling to so many different realms, worlds, and places via beautiful books and stories, such as C.S. Lewis said, we have found that we are finally old enough to start reading fairy tales again, and we have fallen in love with them. And I don't know about you, but that is beyond accurate for the two of us in here. So much so that
Might be dissociating, but it's fine.
Don't tell them that's this early. I'm just kidding. Don't we all? But so much so that we decided that we needed to talk about it. And we decided to take you along for that ride. So you probably should buckle up, though, because we're us. So
yeah, it's going to be an adventure.
Banter's real. Anyways, before we dive into this podcast, you might be asking yourself who we are and what exactly led us to our latest book obsession.
I, Kate, am a fantasy nerd at heart, honestly, and have had an interesting love-hate relationship with reading recreationally over the course of my entire life. So, some years I love it, some years I hate it. But in terms of fantasy, I've always loved worlds like Harry Potter, The Lord of the Rings, but I've never really actually read Harry Potter, or I didn't until I got pregnant with my oldest son back in 2022. And as someone who struggled with dyslexia growing up when I was very young, reading was just always really intimidating to me. And so despite having finished like the Twilight series in one weekend in high school, which may be dating myself a little bit, but that's fine. I'm still Team Jacob, by the way. I can honestly say I didn't read much again until college. And I've always been a big movie buff. And I was intimidated by reading the books attached to my favorite films. But when I found that I was pregnant with my oldest son, something changed. And I found this deep desire to fall into a story without staring at a screen all day. And so thus began my journey of reading more books and watching less TV and films. From spending many days and nights nursing my children, I have found that my Kindle has been very handy in keeping me sane from the crazy that you can find from scrolling social media for too long. If you know, you know.
Which is why I always get a bunch of memes during that time.
Yeah.
Mainly pertaining to books. So
Jess always knows when I'm nursing. She's like, how's it going? I have like 20 reels to watch. Don't judge me. You know you do it too.
100%.
But eventually I graduated to reading physical copies of books as well during nap times as my boys are getting older. But I can't help but keep diving into the next round, the next book. And after my second son was born, I was bedridden for a time. And my Kindle alerted me to a little series that y'all might have heard of called Fourth Wing.
Wow.
We're not surprised. And I guess you can guess where that led me to. Iron Flame and Onyx Storm. And I have just loved seeing the world through Violet, and her story was just so much fun to watch unfold on the page. And the Fourth Wing series brought me out of my temporary reading slump that I found myself in that previous summer. And so now I can say 30 books later, I just can't stop picking up the next book and diving in. And Jess and I have been friends for over 10 years, which is honestly wild to think about. Like, I can't believe it's been that long.
Here we are.
And
we're still going.
I don't know how she got tired of me, but hasn't gotten tired of me, but here we are. And when she came over to help me one day with my boys, I noticed that she brought her Kindle over. And
I have an addiction.
Yes. And I had no idea that she read books on her Kindle. So this was a big surprise for me. And she was reading none other than the Throne of Glass series, which you might have also heard of. I've never personally read it, but I've heard great things. And thus that led us to gushing about our favorite books and unknowingly a similar obsession with all things realms and characters and theories about our favorite books.
Hello, hey, hi. I'm Jess, your fellow bookworm, chaos wrangler, and hopeless romantic.
I've never heard such an accurate depiction of you on a page. I love it.
Thank you very much. As Caitlin can surely tell you, you never quite know what I'm going to say. So this could get really interesting real quick at any point in time, any episode. So I really wish you the best, and I hope you can follow along.
Yes, I'm excited.
My love affair with stories started way back. Like, I'm talking flashlight under the covers level, where, you know, my grandma would open the door and be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm sleeping. And then she'd find the book. Don't worry, I always had a spare. But before I could read even, I was already obsessed with books.
Aww.
I would make my grandmother, yes, I needed it, sit in the back seat while my grandpa would drive places to read to me the books of my choosing. So shout out to her. I didn't
know that about you. I love that.
Yep. And then adulthood happened, and books, what are those and who has time for that? Mm-hmm. Then suddenly I got my obsession back. I got my Kindle last year, actually in April of 2024. So this is
my gosh,
perfect
wow
circle. And what book started me back in it too? None other than Fourth Wing. Did not put that together till we were sitting here right now actually
talking about it. Yeah, that's hilarious.
So that one started, and then I didn't come up back for air until until I'd already devoured ACOTAR 2, and then of course Throne of Glass. Mm-hmm. Stay tuned for that one. Mm-hmm. I went from what's book talk to I need a bookshelf for my emotional damage. So
nothing brings people together like emotional damage and shadow daddies. What can I say?
Shadow daddies. Ooh. Hey. I thought we were a PG-13 cast, rated R, but she tried to say I was the one bringing the spice.
We all know it's true. Don't even.
She's not wrong. But as Kate said, we go way back. Like, I'm talking singing Taylor Swift at the top of our lungs in high school and college with zero shame.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, going through the Taco Bell line while we're laughing too hard to even order. And
I wish I still had that video. Oh my gosh.
I'm sure you'll hear bits and pieces of our story
mm-hmm.
and just our story in general as we go on. But we're definitely the type of friends that say it how it is, laugh till we cry, and now scream about fictional men like it's our full-time job.
Preach.
If you want to help us make it our full-time job, please continue. This podcast is our love letter to the stories we can't shut up about, the theories we overanalyze, and the characters we wish were real. And some we wish could just die already. You know who I'm talking about.
No shame.
If you love chaos, drama, sarcasm, and soul-crushing plot twists, you're our kind of people. So let's get into it. If you love all things lore, character, dissection, and fun theories, this is the place for you. And we hope that you come along, hang out, and chat with us as we keep ourselves sane from this world by talking through other worlds that these authors have built for us to enjoy.
We also wanted this podcast to be open to reading different genres, not just fantasy or romance, even though that kind of seems to be our bread and butter, at least currently. We wanted to also be open to reading and dissecting and discussing other types of books as well. Thus, the title of this podcast is not fantasy or romantasy specific, just emphasizing our remarkable banter, which will be on full display in every episode. If you don't like jokes or laughter, this is not the podcast for you.
Not at all. However, with this being said, our first book that we will be discussing is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. Hopefully I said that right, Carissa. I'm sorry if not. We will likely be covering the second book in this series because, well, we haven't decided if we'll be finishing that full series
or not yet. Yeah.
If you want us to, please let us know. Otherwise, we might just go ahead and dive into a series that Kate has been dying to dive into. I know I know you're wondering what that one is, but
If you
Throne
haven't,
of Glass. If you haven't picked that up yet, as we've been talking, I want her to dive in. It'll obviously change her world, and your world too, if you haven't. So come along for this ride, whether it's this one or Throne of Glass, or put in the comment section whatever you're feeling and want us to read. We are open, despite the fact that it sounds like we're a full-on fantasy right now.
right?
We are a fantasy, but like
We're open to
we're
others. Yes, we're open.
We
to
both
others.
dive into other genres, so please let us know what your opinion is.
Mm-hmm. In terms of structure for these episodes, they will likely fall into what we'll call seasons, where we will have an intro episode about the overall books or series from a bird's eye view, give some background and context that will be helpful, especially if it's a series, because there's always details that you need to discuss to have an understanding, a basic understanding of the series, and then break down the book from there over a series of episodes, working through a couple chapters each time. And depending on the book or series, these episodes could cover 10 chapters or 2 to 3. It just simply depends on the content at hand. And maybe it'll even be one episode if it's just a standalone. Who knows?
We'll see.
We'll see. It depends on the content at hand and how much we really feel like we want or need to talk about it or dive into it. And so the breakdown will tentatively look like this. We'll have different sections. The first section will be some sort of summary. We'll call this our overview for right now, where we'll briefly summarize the chapters we'll be discussing and look into that particular episode. Second section we'll call our analysis, where we'll discuss plot points, world building points if they apply, and character analysis and development. And the last section will be like personal highlights, which we'll call this our favorite section, where we walk through things that stood out, that we enjoyed, or that we just really want or need to talk about in that stretch of chapters.
Let's be honest. When we read books, there's things we need
To talk about.
It's
Yeah.
not a want.
Yeah.
It's a need.
That we may just brush over in the overview, but we really want to talk about it in the last section.
You never know.
You never know what's going to happen.
These sections could definitely change as we go on, depending on what books we decide to discuss, and titles that may change as well. Please be patient with us as we figure out and flesh out what these breakdowns are really going to look like. And definitely give your input if you have any desires for that too. We are a baby podcast, so please be patient with us as we figure all that out. But come along for the ride. It might be bumpy at times, but let me tell you, you'll laugh.
It'll be fun. We can laugh at ourselves.
If you're not laughing, we still will be.
Right. Love it.
We hope we hope you enjoy hanging out with some fellow book nerds and discussing all things book, fantasy, characters, life, chaos, and more.
Chaos and more. Before we go, like Jess said, this is a baby podcast. So please, 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 please like, review, rate this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
Only rate us a 5.
Only if it's a good rating.
Just kidding. You can do what you want, but I know
Right.
you're going to want to do a 5.
Okay, let's be honest. But also please follow us on social media. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Books Brews N, just the letter N, banter. That helps us so much with the algorithm, and we'll get this little baby podcast going and off the ground.
Help us fly.
Help us go and spread our wings.
You couldn't see this, but she started flying.
We'll have to get on YouTube soon. You can see all of this happening in real life time.
I wish you luck. Wish you the best in that. We're a lot, but in the best of ways.
In the best of ways. So here goes nothing, friends. We'll see you in the prologue, where we'll meet Vincent and the Little Serpent.